Hello guys, I am Ijlal and today we are going to learn how to make a basic Unity game. This game will be Flappy Bird clone, so let's start our project. First off all we will create a new project and choose your version. Now I'll choose the format of the project. As it will be a 2D game I'll click on 2D. And now I'll name the project. Name will be Flappy Bird Tutorial. Let's click on create. Wait till it open. After opening the project, you will see this. On the left hand side, you will see a hierarchy where all of your object in a specific scene will be. In the center you have scene view and game view. On the right hand side you will see inspector window, where all the properties of an object are, also known as components. I will explain each component as we move on. There are only one component that is required for the object and cannot be removed. It's the transform component. On the bottom there is two windows, project and also the console. Project window will contain all the assets used in a game. And console will tell you all the errors or problem in the game. Let's start by changing the color of our camera, as the color of the camera will indicate the background. We will add the background later. Now let's create a circle for the player. I'll go in hierarchy and right click and click on 2D and sprite and then circle. And let's change the color. And now let's add some gravity to the ball. So we will go click on player and click on add component and go to physics 2D and rigid body 2D as it is 2D game. This component adds gravity to the objects. Now let's create a ground. Same step, right click in 2D and sprite and square. It'll change color and reposition the ground and scale it to our desired size. Let's play and see what happens. Let's play. As you can see the object fell down straight due to gravity. Now we want that the object should not pass through the ground, so we will add collider component. We will add square collider to the ground and circle collider to the player. Now if we play, gravity can react with the ball and the ground have collision and they can't pass through each other. Let's organize the project. I like to make a parent empty game object of the player and name the player graphics, or player GFX. So let's start by creating the script for our player. I'll create a folder in the project window, name it scripts, and let's open it. And now in here I will create player script by right clicking and new C# script. Let's open it up in Visual Studio or your code editor that you prefer. So first of all we have to understand the two function written here, start and update. First off all let's talk about start function. Start function executes the command in the first frame of the game. And the update function executes the command every single frame in a game till the script stops. Now we have to understand how we will create the flapping in the game. Think for yourself how you think you should do this. I will tell my method. What I'll do is that I'll add force to the rigid body upwards, and that force will also be affected by gravity, so the object will fall down to the ground. So we will do by affecting the velocity of rigid body, as the velocity of the rigid body component will be downwards, we can add upward force to it. So let's start. First I'll create a variable here above the start function. As these variables can be accessed from anywhere in the script, so let's start by creating public rigid body 2D. We will name it RB and end with. It is important in C# code. We will create a float variable for controlling the speed of the flap or its flap's upward velocity. By typing public float speed, we will rename it to flap strength. The term public means that this variable can be changed and accessed by the inspector. Inside Unity engine, float can contain values in decimals. So let's start writing our program. So first in the start function I'll tell what the variable RB is because the computer doesn't know it. So I'll say that RB is equal to the component in the object named rigid body 2D. So let's give it the default value of 5FF, indicates that this is a float. Let's go on in update and let's write code to handle the flapping. First we will check input of the player. We will if bracket start input dot get key down. Bracket open bracket close, and inside these bracket we will type key code dot space, and let's end by closing it with bracket close. Now inside the curly brackets we will say RB dot velocity is equal to vector 2 dot up multiply by flap strength. This will make the player go up. Let's go back to Unity and test it. I'll add the player script to the player by dragging and dropping the script on the player. Let's click on the player and scroll down to the script and let's adjust values. We will not have to add the rigid body 2D to the container, but we should not let it empty. So drag rigid body 2D to the container and let's run the game. As you can see that the object have no problem jumping up infinitely. But the problem is that the player doesn't die when we hit the ground. In the original game the bird dies when it hits the ground. So let's program it. It'll go back in Visual Studio and it'll add this line to the jumping multiply by time dot delta time. The reason for this is that update functions every frames. If you have more frames, the jump force will be different than the player with less frames, so this line makes it so that the amount of force applied is equal. And create a boolean beneath the float, so it'll write public bool is dead. The boolean, as you know, can have only two values, true or false. So inside the update function it'll write this after the input. It'll say end is dead is equal to true, or we can also write just by writing is dead. The term end mean that if the left statement also writes statement is true, then the following code executes. But there is no code written to check if the object collided or not. For that we use a pre-made function known as onCollision2D function. We will create that it check whether the object collides or not. It requires a collision variable that is predefined in Unity, so we don't want to do anything, just type if is dead is false. To write this, write exclamation mark and is dead, then in the curly bracket we will is dead is true. Now let's test it out in Unity. Let's adjust the value of the flap strength to 250. And play. As you can see, it works. So that's it for today. If you like the tutorial, like it and subscribe. Thank you.